The U.S. military famously operates under the motto, "The more you sweat in training, the less you'll bleed in war." Its boot camps thus reflect that ideology, and overall, it sports some of the most difficult basic training that recruits anywhere in the world face. While most nations have basic training or boot camps, for new recruits, few take the time to as thoroughly indoctrinate new recruits and weed out bad ones as the U.S. does, and with good reason. With the cost of fully training and equipping a soldier running in the hundreds of thousands, and supporting that soldier costs as much as $1.4 million during wartime, it's imperative that anyone who's not a good fit for service is drummed out as quickly as possible. Yet of the 5 services, what is the toughest boot camp of them all? Today we're going to dive into boot camp for all 5 U.S. military services and find out. Number 5. Air Force. The Air Force has long been derided as the chair force by the other services. Yet without these armchair warriors, soldiers, sailors, and Marines would find themselves at the mercy of enemy aircraft, without communications due to enemy hacking and jamming, and all but blind to the movement of the enemy. The Air Force prides itself on one thing: being the most technologically advanced fighting force on the planet. Its air and space assets are legendarily cutting edge, and no military service anywhere on Earth fields as much advanced technology as the Air Force. With its focus on technology, the Air Force focuses its basic training on discipline and focus. Every single Air Force recruit has had the words "attention to detail" drilled into their heads, and for good reason. When you're working on a multi-million-dollar aircraft or a space asset that costs tens of millions of dollars to launch, a single loose bolt or misplaced nut can destroy the asset and jeopardize the mission. Because of the massive amount of combat data that the Air Force is responsible for and the sheer importance of its air and space assets, a lack of attention to detail can jeopardize battlefield success in a way that no other branch can match. Air Force basic training consists of 8.5 weeks, and as any other branch starts with the infamous buzz cut haircut. You'll be saying goodbye to your luxurious locks of hair and hello to a freshly buzzed head. From there, you'll focus mostly on academics, with classes on topics such as the law of armed conflict, self-aid and buddy care, leadership, nuclear, biological, and chemical training, and joint warfare. This doesn't mean that you'll be exempt from the infamous physical training of other branches, and you can expect an hour of morning exercise starting at 0500 hours every day, followed by a long day of drill and classes. Number 4. Coast Guard. The U.S. Coast Guard is often overlooked, yet it too is a vital branch of the U.S. military. The mission of the Coast Guard is all in the name. They're responsible for policing U.S. maritime claims, and this can mean everything from regulating ship traffic in and out of some of the world's busiest seaports to chasing drug smugglers across the high seas. In wartime, the Coast Guard is also called upon to supplement the U.S. Navy and is primarily responsible for safeguarding American shores while the Navy projects power overseas. Yet, you might be surprised to find out that the Coast Guard has often seen combat, and it was an American Coast Guard vessel that spotted and fixed the location of the infamous German battleship Bismarck and sealed her fate during World War II. During peacetime, the Coast Guard is also who you'll be calling for if your ship runs into problems while far from shore. And there are few jobs in the world more dangerous than that of a Coast Guard rescue diver, especially those that operate in the infamous Bering Sea in Alaska. Coast Guard training is meant to prepare you for the realities of living in a ship, which means living in close quarters with a dozen or more people. Teamwork is number 1 in Coast Guard, and their training is focused on teaching recruits to resolve interpersonal conflicts and cooperate to achieve the task at hand. Coast Guard trainees must also be prepared to man cutters and destroyers during both peacetime and wartime patrols, and thus the training prepares them for service on warships of different sizes. Lasting 8 weeks, you'll be immediately thrust into team-building exercises. In week 2, you'll start your physical training, starting by running a mile, and then begin training to pass your swimming assessment. You'll eventually be required to jump off an elevated platform into icy cold water and swim 100 meters, and then tread water for 5 minutes without a break in order to pass your training. The rest of your weeks will focus on learning how to navigate the world of the U.S. military, as well as classes in basic first aid and, you guessed it, teamwork. Number 3. U.S. Army. The Navy will get you there, the Air Force will keep you safe and crush your enemy from the sky, the Marines will kick open the door, but when it comes time to win a war, it's the U.S. Army you call on. The US Army trains for one thing and one thing only: how to fight and defeat the largest militaries in the world. The original grunts, Army soldiers operate vast fleets of tanks, armored vehicles, attack helicopters, and artillery that make up the world's most powerful fighting force. Army basic training lasts 10 weeks and is focused on building individual self-discipline and turning civilians into soldiers capable of holding the line against everything from enemy infantry to heavy armor. Basic combat training is thus divided into 3 phases: red, white, and blue. Each phase meant to evolve the competency of the recruit on their way to becoming a soldier. In the red phase, you'll learn how to operate as a team by being given impossible tasks meant to encourage teamwork. You'll also receive classroom training on military etiquette and topics such as race relations to fully integrate soldiers into an active army. You'll be doing extensive parade drill meant to instill strict discipline, as well as daily PT to continuously improve your physical fitness. Unarmed combat and training with pugil sticks will follow, and you'll be introduced to the basics of the M4 or M16 assault rifle. Finally, you'll culminate with a trip to the gas chamber to learn how to properly protect yourself during nuclear, biological, and chemical attacks. In the white phase, you'll be introduced to crew-served weapons such as the M50 caliber machine gun and the MK19 automatic grenade launcher. You'll also be spending a large amount of time at the firing range, becoming proficient with the M4 or M16. And you'll eventually be required to qualify on the weapon by hitting 28 out of 40 targets. In the blue phase, you'll be spending a lot of time out in the field, training to operate in simulated forward-deployed bases and learning basic land navigation. A highlight of the blue phase will be a field training exercise or FTX, where drill sergeants take a back seat and allow the platoon and squad leaders to navigate a combat scenario on their own, complete with simulated fire. An unsatisfactory performance here can see you redoing your week of training and denied advancement. Number 2. US Navy. The US Navy operates the most advanced fleet anywhere in the world, and as such places high standards on its recruits. Rising from the ashes of Pearl Harbor in World War II, the US Navy rallied from that crushing defeat and destroyed one of the greatest naval powers in the world. To the Navy, it's a matter of personal pride that no enemy ever set foot on the US mainland or on the territory of its allies Canada or Mexico. Its fleets have ensured that any war has always been fought far from home, and its air power alone is as powerful as that of entire nations. For the Navy, teamwork and attention to detail are both vital. Not only must recruits handle the pressures of working alongside hundreds of others in the tight confines of a modern warship, but they must maintain a level of focus critical to success while handling the high technology assets of its various ships, subs, and planes, all while operating far from home and in potentially dangerous seas. Navy Boot Camp has a strong emphasis on physical training and lasts 8 weeks, all spent on the chilly shores of Lake Michigan. Recruits are immediately tested on their swimming ability, and any who fail to pass minimum standards are sidelined from their training and forced to undergo intensive swimming instruction, which can add to their overall stay in boot camp. Physical fitness is vital for the US Navy, especially due to the fact that its sailors routinely operate in an environment where they could find themselves swimming for their lives at a moment's notice. As with all the other branches, you'll be undergoing many hours of classroom instruction, though perhaps not as much as the Air Force. You'll also be undertaking confidence and team-building exercise meant to teach you to be confident in the face of danger and work together with men and women who were just recently complete strangers. You'll undergo simulated shipboard disasters and undergo training on a land-bound training ship to learn the ins and outs of a war vessel. You'll also move to the firing range and learn how to operate the M16 or M4 rifle and a 12-gauge shotgun. One thing that sets Navy training apart from other services is the extensive amount of firefighting training you'll undergo. With fire being a fighting ship's most dangerous enemy, you'll undergo training to extinguish fires in a variety of situations, as well as how to navigate and escape smoke-filled compartments. You'll be expected to keep your cool under pressure, an ability which will be tested to the breaking point in Week 7's Battle Stations drills. Here you'll undergo 12 different scenarios which will test all of your learned skills to date, with you and your team being graded on each. Failure means you'll be forced to undergo additional training, and success leads to graduation. Number 1. U.S. Marine Corps. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles on the land as on the sea. So goes the Marines' hymn, and highlights the diverse battlefields under which the American Marines have historically fought and won battles on. The U.S. Marine Corps is the world's premier expeditionary force, tasked with bringing heavy amounts of American firepower in a very quick manner to anywhere in the world. While it's the U.S. Army that wins wars, it's typically the Marines who kick open the door and allow them to do so. specializing in amphibious assault operations meant to take and hold hostile beaches so friendly forces can land and carry the battle inland. Lasting 12 weeks, Marine basic training is the most physically demanding of the 5 services, and this is reflected in the Day 1 focus on physical fitness. Split up into 3 phases, in Phase 1 you'll undergo a very rapid transition from civilian to Marine recruit, undergoing intense physical training and being introduced to the M16 or M4 assault rifle. The Marines believe that every Marine is a rifleman, meaning that no matter what your job ends up being in the Corps, from medical to services or mechanic, you're expected to maintain proficiency in the M16 and M4 assault rifles, which means a lot of time spent on the range. In Phase 2, you'll undergo further training in hand-to-hand combat and focus on mastering your marksmanship abilities. You'll spend most of your time either at the range or in field training exercises, and will inevitably end up thrown into a gas chamber for nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare training. Phase 2 will culminate in the Crucible, a 54-hour event where you'll march 45 miles and be denied food and sleep. In your final phase, you'll undergo swim qualification training, and much like the Navy, failure here will mean additional training or failure to graduate. You'll also undergo drill and first aid training, as well as classroom training on Marine Corps history and values. What do you think is the toughest thing about boot camp? The physical or mental aspects? Have you ever been through one of these boot camps? Have you ever been through boot camp in another country? Let us know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content.